Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm April Martinez.
And I am Isani Kayatao.
And good morning, Belize. Thank you so much for being here with us on this blessed Monday morning.
I like how you say it, blessed.
I know, it's pun
Prayers
not intended.
before anything,
yes.
April. Prayers
yes.
before anything. So when we say blessed, it's because, we
I'm
sincerely
happy.
mean
I think that, like we were talking about the other day, what day is your favorite day of the week? And I really do like Mondays. To me, it's like a clean slate. You get to start over. You get to do what you have to do. I know that people don't like Mondays because it is very stressful. You just get off the weekend. You have to go to work, all of these things. But I always feel like it's a brand new day to start something new, to start something good. So I'm appreciative of Mondays.
I don't have a favorite day per se.
No?
I do enjoy Sundays though. Everything else from Monday to Saturday still feels sort of, like you're in a rush to try to get things done and what have you. And Sunday is just relaxed and laid back. And so, for me, Sunday is the best day. Not saying it's my favorite. I don't have a favorite, but, Sunday is good.
Did you get to relax this weekend as opposed to last weekend?
Well, I make sure that I relax every weekend.
Okay. I'm proud of you. I need to start to make those kinds of traits in my life.
No, it's just a matter of telling yourself that if you work hard, you need to be able to either play equally hard or relax as much, to try to reset and get things stable.
I mean, this weekend, it was a lull weekend compared to last weekend. It's like everybody decided
for obvious
to go
reasons,
sleep.
everybody broke. After the long weekend last week, everybody is,
I find it that I like that you went there and you said that. No, because we always have this statement of we're broke. But for some reason, when it comes to big events or celebration events, and we're coming into September and, so forth, we always find it a way, There is always a way. And I'm not saying that that's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying that you see where certain priorities lie. And then you also need to make sure that you do have some time to enjoy yourself. I think we live in a world where we kind of glorify being busy all the time. We glorify being exhausted. We glorify, work. And then when somebody decides they're going to relax, they're lazy.
April, I don't want to come off as though I'm preaching from on high. That's not my point here. But I'll say this, right? You're only young once. But at the same time, you need to establish certain goals and priorities in your life.
Agreed.
I think what bothers me the most when I look around and I see all these young men and women who have certain things going for them, but everything seems to revolve around the party, being the life of the party, investing in the party, what have you. And that's all great, but you need to have goals that go beyond just enjoying that particular moment. And I think that is my observation when I look at young people today. Everything is centered around their social lives and what have you. Yeah. And like I'm saying, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you need to be able to see beyond that.
Agreed.
You need to be able to establish yourself so that down the road you can say, you know what, this is what I've done with my life, with my earnings, or whatever it is that you do.
My friend Joanne says to me, and she's a much older person, she always says that she will always make sure that she gets her work done by Friday so that there is no excuse for her not to play hard on the weekends.
And
so
there
you do your Monday to Friday, you make sure you get your work done as much as you possibly can, you finish the job, you meet those deadlines, and then Saturday and Sunday, you have time to relax. Monday, you start it all over again. You set that tone for yourself, right? But just speaking of playing hard a little bit and shifting gears, KTV, the remix, is still going on this Tuesday. I believe it's down to the wire, and four contestants, correct me if I'm wrong, five contestants. So they are almost at that semi-final round that is taking place this Tuesday at the Bliss from 8 p.m. And of course, the voting polls have officially been done for this week. So we're gonna get to find out who has been eliminated this week. Are you keeping up with KTV,
To an extent,
the remix?
yes, to an extent I do. Simply because I need to be abreast of what takes place during every episode, because we discuss it, on the morning show. So yes,
Oh yes, because you're on Wednesdays,
Yes,
right? So you
yes.
have to make sure you know what's happening on Tuesday nights. Yes, I remember when I was doing the Wednesday, I always had to make sure I at least did the first hour before I have to drop asleep, so that I have some kind of commentary. But it's been a great journey so far that I've seen, and what I was talking to Dwayne about this on Friday is that the contestants here, this final five, they're hardcore musicians. They are really, really invested in their craft.
Yeah. You look at Haziel, for instance,
Yes.
right? And he is deeply invested in what he does as a musician. And I think it's when you put your heart and your soul into what you're doing. In this case, it's his performances and sharing with Belize and the world his raw talent.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think when
he's
you're
the
able to do
youngest, I
that-
believe, the youngest contestant, and he was the first online submission that, well, he was one of the online submitters, and then he actually got to be on this stage. So it speaks volumes to his talent.
I mean, there are other talents who are competing for this grand prize that are equally,
Yes.
up to scratch, so to speak.
It's going to be a difficult competition, but nevertheless, you can get your tickets at the 88 Shopping Center and right here at the Channel 5 studio here on Kona Drive. It is $5 for adults. And $3 for children. So of course, drop on by, pick up your tickets, and head on over to the Bliss for KTV The Remix.
Season 5.
Season 5 and counting. But we got to move on for our show this morning. It is Monday, Isane, so we are
Indeed it
going
is.
to drop into our Eye on the News.
So the evangelical church is rocked by scandal.
Yes.
Last week we broke a story in which several persons came forward with allegations of sexual abuse against a church leader, if I could use that description. And in the wake of that initial story being aired, several other persons have come forward with experiences of their own. And it's sad when you look at a situation where persons who are deeply religious and they're into the whole idea of spirituality, and with that comes a sense of confidence and trust in the individuals who are leading either worship, the congregation, who are in that position as religious leaders. You place your confidence in these individuals, hoping and trusting that they will do right by you and, of course, by the higher power that they serve. And so when you have these situations where persons are coming forward to say, look, I was abused by this individual as a child, it completely upends everything that you would think the church stands for and what have you. Now, there was the story that we led with on Friday, where the young lady, Kelsey Parham, shared her story, her experience with my colleague Paul Lopez. And The details of what transpired in her case were very vivid in terms of her recollection of what took place and how this has affected her. And there is one thing in common with all of the persons who have sort of testified against this individual, where they are saying, look, it took them a while to come forward simply because in a predicament that they find themselves where, you know, the thought is, well, it's my word against him, and I wonder if people will believe me because of the influence that this individual wields within the church that he belongs to, right? Nonetheless, it is acknowledged as a bold move for them to come forward and finally put this out there that it has been happening. Yeah. We also know that on Friday, Kelsey Parham also filed a formal report with the Belize Police Department, the details of which the Director of Public Prosecution has also requested, you know, so that an investigation can begin. Now, what I want to do, and I know that we've been very responsible,
careful,
precautious even, not to mention the name of the individual, but I mean, it's out there already, and even the church that, or the ministry that he belongs to, has issued a statement where they're speaking directly to the actions that were taken in the wake of this allegation, or these allegations. They continue to mount. All right, so I'll read verbatim what Jubilee Ministries has issued in terms of this particular situation. It says, statement in support of sexual abuse victims. The leadership team of Jubilee Ministries is deeply saddened by the very disturbing, the very disturbing incidents that have occurred involving one of our own. When we became aware of the incident involving our pastor's daughter, Rebecca Sturm Lennon, we immediately launched an investigation and conducted meetings with Mervyn Boudram. Our investigation led to additional exposures. He was immediately removed from all leadership and ministry roles. Other ministries outside of our church graciously stepped up to offer counseling to Rebecca, while others engaged the Boudram family. For that, we are grateful. We began contacting relevant leaders, ministries, and individuals related to Mervyn, as well as reaching out to victims. We pledge our unconditional support, which included encouraging victims to take whatever necessary steps as they deem fit. Police reports have been filed, and it is our understanding that the reports are now with the DPP. As a ministry, we want to be categorically clear that we do not condone or tolerate any form of abuse, be that from leaders or members of our church family. We, as leaders, hold ourselves to high standards and boundaries. Mervyn chose to disregard all that we teach, preach, mentor, and live at Jubilee Ministries. He knows that this is 100% on his shoulders. Our primary focus is to stand in solidarity with the victims and their families. Our church is also offering private counseling to the victims. It is God's desired outcome that each of these women will experience healing and freedom in moving forward. As a church, we wish to express our appreciation to Rebecca Sturm Lennon for her bravery in sharing her story. Her breaking the silence was a catalyst in bringing light to the darkness. When the silence is broken, the healing can begin. We believe with all our hearts that God will turn for good what was intended for evil. We are seeking the guidance of the Child Development Foundation for training and sensitization for our church. We trust God that the awareness brought by this situation will result in raising the standards throughout the body of Christ. As a church, we are called to heal the brokenhearted, and our priority rests in supporting those wronged by Mervyn Boudram. We deeply appreciate your prayer in this difficult situation. This is written by Jason Twist and Kerm Thimbrel, both from the Jubilee Eldership team. All right, so that is the position being taken by Jubilee Ministries in respect of this very issue. And as we've mentioned, the matter is now in the hands of the police department and the Director of Public Prosecutions. But that aside, I go back to mentioning that this has to do with trust and confidence being placed in persons who are in leadership positions, right? You can imagine, one can only imagine, that as parents, for instance, when you send your child to Sunday school, you send your child to church, you help your child to grow up in that religious community, that everything is being done to safeguard and protect your child's well-being, and for something like this to come forward so many years later, particularly within your own group, your own community, you know, it has to be a difficult situation.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know Pastor Scott and how vocal and steadfast he's been on certain matters. And here is a man, right? And then you look at now what took place with his daughter and the fact that she had to muster the courage to even approach and say, hey, Dad, this was what I experienced many years ago at the hands of this individual. And I believe the same applies for all the other victims who have come forward with similar experiences, you know? And man, it's a tough thing because we know that the church, and I'm speaking in the round, is not without its flaws. I mean, we've heard of these kinds of stories in the Catholic Church. We hear about it in other denominations as well. And, you know, it's one of those things. And it'll be interesting to see where we go from here. Again, charges have not been preferred on Mr. Budram. We only know that a report has been formally tendered by one of the victims, the alleged victims. And so we'll see where we go from here, April.
You know, I was listening to this statement made, and I'm really, I have to say that I'm happy that the church has decided to take a little bit of ownership, narrative, and has decided to rally behind the victims and, of course, the family of Mr. Budram, because at the end of the day, it's not just him that is affected, of course. It is his entire family. He does have a wife and beautiful children, and so I can't even imagine the state in which they are also in as well, given by the choices that he made. But that said, I'm also happy that the statement of the church came out, because it also makes the rest of the victims feel comfortable in speaking out. Most of the times when these things happen and it's a church leader or somebody in a leadership position, you know, society is quick to say, but this is a man of integrity, you know, basically trying to defend the perpetrator. So I am happy that we are seeing this movement of we have to take ownership and we have to support the persons that have been hurt by this cause. So we are going to continue to follow this story, Sane. I don't know where it's going to lead just yet. Yeah. But I have to say that we do stand beside these victims. We acknowledge that this is something that does happen in our society, and we can't remove ourselves from this conversation.
Well, I'll say this, right? While we know that Jubilee Ministries has issued its statement, they belong to a broader organization, a wider body. And so with that, I would assume that a statement should also come from the National Evangelical Association of Belize, NEAB. That's sort of like the umbrella organization, right? And so it's only fair that they too come forward and share their position on what's taking place there. Again, it's one of those situations where it took one individual to be courageous enough to come forward.
Yeah.
And
cause
then
a ripple effect.
Yeah, it sort of, you know, balloons from there, where you have all these other persons who are coming forward to say, hey, you know, I thought it was only me. And, you know, I think one of the questions in all of this was where statutes of limitation lie, right? These are allegations that are being brought forward of experiences with this individual several years ago. And so one of the questions that was brought to me was whether or not there is any legal criminal action that can be taken at this point, given the amount of time that has since gone by, right? And so that becomes part of the question here. At least from our end, we'll seek to find out whether or not there are statutes of limitation that govern these kinds of offenses and what have you.
Well, we'd certainly keep a track on this one. And of course, like I said, this is not the only situation where we see this somebody in a position of leadership abuse their power in this kind of way. It's an unfortunate act. It is something that happens in our society, and hopefully with this particular story, we're able to continue to break the chains of these silences. So we are going to continue the story, like I said, and of course, we're going to see more of this in our newscast tonight, Isani.
Certainly.
Certainly more of these stories can be caught on our news live on 6 p.m. right here on Channel 5 and on Facebook on News 5 Live and on YouTube. That does it for our Eye on the News. Move on with the weather this morning, Isani. It was a nice day today. It was a nice weekend. I don't know about Belize City, but it was hot, right? Of course, nevertheless, it's hot all the time, but no, there was no rain. It was perfect weather. I feel like some events wish that they had this weather this weekend. But we are going to hear more of an update from the folks at the National Meteorological Service in Belize to give us that update for the weather this morning. It was foggy this morning. And you know what I say, right? If the fog, then it might just be really, really hot today. But also speaking to the folks at the Met Service has taught me that that is not always the case. So as we wait for them to get on the line with us, I did want to say that for most of the country, it looks like it's going to be fairly cloudy, because that's what it's been like lately. It's been cloudy, and then it just doesn't rain. It's just hot. It's almost like a gotcha situation. But we are going to have that recording for you now from the Belize Met Service.
Good morning, Belize. A light easterly airflow prevails. Calls the sunny skies and high temperatures are expected to reach 89 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, to 95 inland and 82 over the mountains. Tonight, skies will be partly cloudy with low temperatures of 83 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, to 74 inland and 68 in the higher elevations. A few showers and isolated thunderstorms will develop mainly along coastal areas today. This afternoon, inland, isolated thunderstorms can be expected. Tonight and tomorrow morning, showers will be isolated. The winds will be easterly at 5 to 15 knots and the sea state will be slight. A low tide will occur at 8:56 this morning, followed by a high at 2:49 in the afternoon. Another low occurs at 8:32 tonight and a high at 2:42 tomorrow morning. The sun rose at 5:33 a.m. and will set at 6:23. The moon set at 11:21 this morning and comes up at 4 minutes past 11 tonight. The outlook for Tuesday and Tuesday night is for fair weather to prevail with only isolated showers. In the sargassum forecast, there is a slightly higher chance for sargassum mats to drift onto our beaches during the coming days. And in the tropical weather outlook for the North Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico, no tropical cyclone formation is expected during the next 48 hours. And that's your morning forecast that was prepared here at the National Meteorological Service.
All right, so we want to thank Catherine Cumberbatch for that weather update this morning. So it might just rain today or tomorrow. But we move on with our show for this morning with our eye opener taken from dailyom.com, and it goes like this. When we schedule too much in our lives trying to meet our obligations, we only end up draining our energy. We all encounter obligations in life, from spending time with family and friends to being present at important functions in the lives of the people who form our community. Many times, the obligations are actually fun and fulfilling, and we want to be there. At the same time, we all sometimes experience resistance to meeting these obligations, especially when they pile up all at once and we begin to feel exhausted, longing for nothing so much as a quiet evening at home. At times like these, we may want to say no, but feel too guilty at the idea of not being there. Still, our primary obligation is to take care of ourselves, and if saying no to someone else is what we have to do, then we do not need to feel bad about it. Meeting our obligations to others is an important part of being human and not one to take lightly. At the same time, we cannot meet every obligation without neglecting our primary duty to take care of ourselves. We can navigate this quandary by being conscious of what we choose to do and not to do by finding concrete ways to extend our caring when we are not able to be there in person. I don't know. I don't have a problem to say no.
I do, depending
You
on the
do?
situation. I've always
Okay.
struggled with saying no. I'll be the first to say that, right? And I think it's because, to a large extent, I try to be as conscientious as possible of other people's situations. And because of that, the primary challenge is being able to say no, because I have to prioritize my own situation. So
Yeah.
that creates a sort of a conflict, right?
I do think that sometimes, and it's not even about maybe you have other obligations or priorities, like the eye opener said, sometimes you're just drained from the day or from the week. And I think that that is something that everybody can relate to.
Yeah.
So if I say to you, Isani, you know what, I really can't hang out today. I am all peopled out. My social meter is at E, and I really, really can't. I don't expect, and this is just my personal opinion, I don't expect that you were to say, well, April, you're not a real friend because you can't go hang out. And you know, it's a weird situation when.
But that is understandable.
Yeah.
And I could understand fully having to tell someone that you won't make it or you're not in the mood to go anywhere or what have you. Try that when someone is asking for financial assistance and you need your money to be able to deal it with whatever it is that you are prioritizing. So now you're, in essence, between a rock and a hard place. Do I sacrifice what I want to do with the available money, or do I, you know, say no and proceed with my plan? For me, it's always been a moral dilemma being able to tell people no in that context.
I don't know if I've ever had that situation to tell somebody yes or no. I think that for certain family obligations, I don't think that I can say no to. And I just think that that's the way that I've been raised. So I could be, my social meter could be at E and below E, and I would probably still drag myself to do something, but that's on me, right? That's not somebody saying I have to do something or I have to show up or I have to meet certain obligations. It's just my moral compass will probably not allow me to say no. But I do think that setting boundaries for yourself when you are emotionally exhausted or just socially exhausted, you should be able to say no, and persons on the receiving end should be able to understand. But that's just, some people will not, right? And
most people will not.
Well, most people will not. But I do think that we have to.
It's almost as if though it's an ideal, but not necessarily the reality, that people fully understand when you're telling them no, and no comes with a reason, perhaps a justifiable one.
Yeah.
But they don't see it that way.
I think that sometimes, and this comes back to the concept of human beings in a particular selfish nature, where sometimes we're so focused on our things and our situations and perhaps our obligations that we don't stop and think, okay, maybe he is going through something and he can't come out tonight. So that's where we have to set boundaries, right? So wherever you are this morning, try your best to see if you can say no to somebody today for, of course, your
right
own
reasons.
right reasons, right? But Isani, we have a packed show this morning. It is Monday after all, and we are kicking our conversations off with the World Indigenous Day. And we're going to have representatives from the Ministry of Human Development, Families, and Indigenous Peoples Affairs to talk to us more about World Indigenous Day and why we should celebrate it.
All right, and then we're also discussing personal debt. We will be joined by
Not
someone
looking forward to that
to
conversation.
discuss with us, to share with us exactly how we should be able to navigate personal debt.
We're going to wrap things up with author Madeline Dyer, and she's going to talk to us about her new up-and-coming published book. So, of course, we always enjoy having our Belizean authors in with us to talk to us about their works. But we got to take the break, and we will be back with the conversation on World Indigenous Day. So stay with us.
Get ready, babe. We're going on a vacation.
Finally, where are we going?
Don't worry, babe. I have we covered.
Are you sure you know where we're going?
Yes, babe. Oh, right there, see? Babe, the price me too good to be true. Me look much more better in that picture.
When life throws you a curveball, Belize Bank has your back. With our online financing, you can turn any vacation mishap into a dream getaway.
Cheers to Belize Bank for making our dream vacation a reality.
Thanks to you, babes, to turn things around.
No thanks to you, cheapo.
Ouch.
Experience the future of financing with Belize Bank online, where you can secure funds for anything, from anywhere, at any time, all without stepping foot in a bank. Apply for a loan today and unlock a world of possibilities.
We've been driving around, singing songs we're too loud because we wanna. Picking up a lot of friends, fill up the car to live best because we wanna. Yeah, we just wanna have fun. The trucks full of wine. We're gonna stay up, have the time of our lives. Yeah, we just wanna have fun. The trucks full of wine. We're gonna stay up, have the time of our lives.
Honda Navi, a partner you can rely on. Benquip, equipment, parts, service.
Sign up for Smart Share Plan and save big. Whether you're a small entrepreneur starting up your business, a student on a limited budget, or a family trying to save, this is the plan for you. With unlimited SMS, calls, and data, we help you save. Get up to 5 lines for as low as $30 per line monthly, only with Smart. Sign up today at any Smart showroom or sales manager countrywide. So get your business going, share more memories with friends, and be ready for the day with Smart.
KTV The Remix Season 5, every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Come on out and win fabulous prizes and the chance to compete in our halftime challenge. Tickets are available at Channel 5 on Pony Drive and 88 Shopping Center on Central American Boulevard. $3 for children and $5 for adults. Or catch it live on Channel 5, Facebook, and YouTube every Tuesday at 8 p.m. from the Bliss Center for the Performing Arts. Don't miss KTV The Remix Season 5. It's hot, it's live, and it's only on 5.
And welcome back. Our first conversation of the morning is with Minister Dolores Valderramos Garcia. She represents the Human Development, Families, and Indigenous Peoples Affairs Ministry. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning, young people. You all are looking nice and bright.
I'm young at heart.
Yes, of course. Sure, you know all.
Neither are you. You're here, you're sprightly and up at 7 in the morning with us.
Well, I actually opened my eyes at 2 minutes to 6.
Wow.
So it was a rush to get here, you know? Yeah.
So we're discussing World Indigenous Day and what that means to Belize. I know that, and I may be wrong, you'll correct me if I am, that we acknowledge 2 indigenous communities, if I say, groups in Belize, right?
Indeed, yes.
The Mayas and the Garifuna. And so we want to start our conversation there. Talk to us about the significance of World Indigenous Day in the context of Belize's indigenous groups.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, the jury may still be out in terms of who all are indigenous. And because, even among people that you would think that, that it has been decided, there seems to be still some discussion and debate. But I think generally speaking, not that we want to exclude anybody, but generally speaking, it's our Garifuna sisters and brothers, and also our Maya sisters and brothers, whom we consider indigenous. And I believe, at least in my view, the indigeneity comes from being indigenous to the Americas. Because, you know, somebody said, well, didn't the Garifuna come here in 1802, and, you know, from Honduras, and we know the history of being exiled off of St. Vincent to Baliso, and then it was really a genocide, and it is the survivors who really came. They didn't come voluntarily, but they were exiled. They were sent out on ships and dumped on the southern island of Roatan in Honduras. And then, of course, we know the history. I know Dr. Joseph Palacio, very esteemed anthropologist, has a book called The Garifuna, A Nation Across Borders. So that's our Garifuna people. And why should we not recognize that indigeneity because of the Americas, in my view? And then, of course, our Maya people. But you will probably be aware that in the case that started with then Chief Justice Abdoulaye Conte, there were many affidavits that were filed that were arguing that even the Maya people are not so much indigenous, because many of them were in Guatemala and actually came into Belize and continue to do so. Because I believe that the Maya population in the south, I believe, is growing, because you do have a lot of inward migration, and the Quechua language is really taking over. I mean, let me just mention this, we were in Bladen the other day. Now, Bladen is a very, very interesting village, because it's one of the first Maya villages on the way south after you pass Bella Vista. And the Bladen, I think, is not only a Maya village, but also a mestizo village. And the culture is so diverse and rich. It was the first meeting that we had to be translating not only into Quechua, but also into Spanish. So that was, our country is absolutely rich in diversity, and we're happy to keep up the World Indigenous Day in a good way, you know?
Yes. I could recall sitting in on one of those sessions where the matter was before the Chief Justice, the former Chief Justice. And the question of whether or not the present-day Mayas that we have in the country are in fact indigenous, that was brought up. And it was sort of taken as an affront to,
Yes,
to
indeed.
the existing community, because they're
When,
saying, well,
when it was being questioned.
yes,
Yes, indeed.
because they're saying, we've been here, we've always been
course,
here,
of
and so
course,
for you to
course.
question whether or not
Yeah.
we're indigenous to Belize is an insult, is like a slap
well,
in the face.
You know, many nations are nations of immigrants, you know, and I mean, I think I saw on the social media, the judge who will be presiding over the latest indictments against the former president Trump, you know.
Yeah.
It's very infamous, you know. Apparently there's been now some racist pushback because she is a judge that was born in Jamaica. Come from a very eminent family of physicians and lawyers and everything. I think her name is Tanya Chotkan. And of course the white racists are saying, well, she's an immigrant, she's a black woman, you know, and to hell with her. But it's coming from the white supremacists and the people who don't want to acknowledge that all our nations are nations of immigrants. And I think in Australia...
More so the United States.
Absolutely,
If you look at the United States and its
absolutely.
composition.
So it look like they don't think that they don't think that the white people are immigrants, but they are.
I always wondered and I think about immigration and when we're talking about true indigeneity in Belize, and I always said to myself, the borders were placed by our colonizers.
Of course.
Indigenous persons that were here did not see those borders in the same way.
You know?
And so therefore the back and front going from what is now present-day Guatemala and what is now present-day Belize was a hop skip over the stream to go see a family member and so forth. So placing this concept of they're not indigenous to Belize is I think it's not politically correct.
Not at all.
Any kind
and
of
I
way.
mean, look at in Australia, though, now they are trying to have, I believe, a referendum to recognize the Aboriginal people of Australia. And then, of course, in North America, you talk about, in Canada, for example, you talk about First Nations, because the native North Americans are the First Nations people. We could call it First Nations here if we want, especially in regard to the Maya people, you know. And I think we should, it's good to mark it. We won't be having any official ceremonies or anything like that. But in marking it, we want to call attention to the fact that it is a special case of the indigenous peoples that we have in Belize. And it should attract special attention. It should attract special attention.
Let's broaden the conversation then,
please,
and speak about preservation in this particular context. Because while we acknowledge that you have the Garifuna and the Maya, when we look at Belize as a cultural melting pot where we have all of these other, you know, races and ethnicities and what have you, we still have to be able to look at both of these groups in a way where we can preserve the cultures, we can preserve the way of life, we can preserve everything that has to do with Garifuna and Maya respectively.
Right. We don't want to put our indigenous people in silos, but we want to, in the rich melting pot that you talk about, Isani, I think it is important to have that level of cultural preservation, because if you don't stress on it, it can be lost. And that is why, as a matter of fact, we were supposed to have had the visit of the Minister of Amerindian Affairs of Guyana this week, actually, but they had to postpone. So we're hoping that she can come later this year or maybe next year. Her name is Minister Pauline Sukai, and we had planned on her visit to take her to the Luba Garifuna Museum on the south side of
My
Belize
dad would
City.
have been extremely proud and happy to
You know,
accommodate.
it's a little place, but it's so rich in the way Mr. Cayetano has been able to bring everything together about, and you know, he's a walking encyclopedia of all things.
Yes.
So you can be very, very proud, Isani. And also, I call him Baba Roy, Cayetano. Baba Roy Cayetano is a walking repository of not only language but history.
Do you think, Minister, that we are doing enough to do that transmission into our generations that are coming?
I think we're starting to work at it. We may not have given it the attention before, but now that there is a Ministry for Indigenous Peoples Affairs and there is that cultural awareness, I give a lot of credit to the Ministry of Education, Culture, Science and Technology, and Minister Francis. They're really doing a lot. Mr. Palacio, Dr. Vincent Palacio of UB is also promoting, and I believe they have started, the Intercultural Indigenous Language and Cultural Institute at UB. So the cultural preservation of the Maya languages and the Garifuna language, so very, very important, so important. And so I'm happy that we are able to market in Belize in our own way. I can mention that at the United Nations, I think earlier I saw a little transcript, Miss Christina Koch, who is the advocate, you would say, for the Maya case, which we are still in the process of implementing. You know, she was lamenting and saying that the indigenous rights of the Maya people are still not being respected to the extent that they should. Now, we could go into a debate about that. We could go into a debate about that.
That's always been a controversial issue.
It is very controversial. And guess what, you know, everybody has their truth to tell. And I don't decry her view that perhaps we need to respect it a little bit more, but I can tell you that the government is trying our level best to see how we roll out all the things that we have to do in relation to the 2015 consent order. How you consent to something and then don't do it? So, and still we're grappling 8 years later with the Maya customary land tenure policy, and from that it is really urgent that we pass the, well, first of all, we have to draft it, and then we would want to take to the National Assembly the what we call the legislative framework, no? Because we have to pass a law to balance everything.
But there's always been this friction, though.
There is, and to an extent, yes.
Between the state and the Maya community, where land rights are concerned.
Well, you know, I find it maybe a little bit disappointing, because I don't think that there needs to be that level of friction. And you see, if you set yourself up and you say the state is the enemy, the state is the bad wolf, then naturally everything that you do flowing from that, there will always be an antagonism. Now, our view is that we have to try to work together and settle it. We have to try to work together and settle it, because again, when we attempt to define the basket or the bundle of Maya customary land tenure rights, the big question, the $64 question is that bundle of rights in relation to customary land tenure the same as when you have somebody having a private ownership of a land, what we call fee simple in the English common law that we have learned as attorneys and that we practice in Belize. When you have your title in your hand, you know, is the customary land tenure of the Maya people identical? And I would probably have to say no, but let us see how we can balance it. And the major challenge of the government, because we have to wear that hat and we have to bear that responsibility, the major challenge of the government is how are we going to balance those often competing rights? And guess what? It is urgent, because right now we have some questions that are coming up, because people are saying, why can't I get my title in the Toledo district? But in Section 4 of the consent order of the Caribbean Court of Justice 8 years ago, the government of Belize undertook not to be passing leases, titles, not to be doing those kinds of transfers until we put in place the whole legislative framework. No, you have some people where they real about that, even within our own, you know, political party and government and whatnot. not everybody sees things in the same way. But fortunately or unfortunately, when you make an undertaking, you have to follow it through. And that is the difficulty. Now, our main legal advisor, Mr. Marshall Eck, as well as Samantha Matut, who is the Assistant Solicitor General, and of course we have our Commissioner for Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Gregory Chok, who is also an attorney himself. They are advising that, well, it's not they who are advising it, but they are helping to guide us, but with the realization that we are now at a stage that it's pretty urgent. It's pretty urgent because we don't want to have the Maya advocates who represent the appellants in the case in 2015 complaining and continuing to complain that the government isn't doing anything. We are trying. Earlier this year when we had the Yemery Grove controversy with Laguna Village, we had to, we had to tell everybody, hold it down. You do it. Mr. Osha doesn't have the right to go and take matters into his hands when there is the perception that the Maya villages, some of the Maya villages are expanding and taking over. And I'll tell you this.
There's no respect, well, in that particular situation, there's little or no respect to the actual delineation and the boundaries that are existing.
Well, you see, here again, the complexity of, and the difficulty of the situation is that the government must have an oversight of where the delimitation of boundaries are, whether it is between Maya villages or between a Maya village and a non-Maya village. And as a matter of fact, San Felipe, they are not too happy about the expansion that they see is taking place from the same laguna, right? Same laguna, so you have the Yemery Grove people, then you have San Felipe, San Marcos, you have, and then you have what you call the East Indian Corridor. When you go down towards PG, I guess, I don't have a bucket list, but of the 41 Maya villages of the Toledo district, I think I've been to about 27 of them already. So, no, and it's so important. But I think that maybe the message that I would, like to give about the World Day for Indigenous People is, let's respect our Indigenous people. Let's accept that not everything is going to be easy, but let us celebrate the cultural diversity and the richness of Belize because we have Indigenous people here. Let's celebrate that. That's a cause for marking it. That's a cause for celebrating it. We're going into the September celebrations, and we are hoping...
That's also the optimism that we should approach
Absolutely,
it with.
Absolutely. We must have that optimism. But you want to ask something.
No, because I was going to say in light and respect of World Indigenous Peoples Day, the indigenous people throughout the world have always been a marginalized group.
Correct.
And so for us here in Belize, where we have, you guys say 2, I say 4. 4 indigenous groups in Belize where...
What are they next to?
So I don't group all Maya people in one.
Okay.
I respect their different languages by saying Yucatec, Quechua,
okay.
and then your Garifuna people. So I put that into perspective because they're all trying to seek some level of recognition on their own rights, right? And so when I'm thinking about World Indigenous Peoples Day and, well, this particular situation, I often wonder what the dialogue looks like between yourself, you, Minister, and the small person in the hut that doesn't really understand the gravity of the situation.
Well, let me say this. We are doing the best that we can, I believe, to really get the message out there for the understanding of what that indigeneity is and also what the Maya customary land tenure is. As a matter of fact, Greg Chok last week, I believe, or it was either last week or the week before, held a big consultation with many of the Maya leaders, bringing them together, explaining what the draft of the Maya customary land tenure policy is. And so we're socializing that. We're spreading the word. And I think that it went very well. It's difficult to bring everybody together. Sometimes you have to give like a week notice because people have to come from the far-flung villages. He was telling me that the people from Graham Creek who came to participate in the training session, they never get home till, they left home like 3 in the morning, and they never get home till 11 o'clock the night. So it is that difficult. You know, we have very far-flung remote villages. We went the other day to San Benito, Poite. That is probably one of the most remote villages. We were there in the vehicle and we're going along and the road bad, when I tell you bad. We were going along and we kept saying to the driver, are we there yet? But it is a village of rich culture. You know, and they have to use, I forget what you call it now, the Guatemalan phone.
This is the signal you get their signal, not ours.
They don't even get signal from Belize in terms of the use of telephone because it is that remote. And then of course you have Graham Creek and Otoshan, Dolores.
So, Minister, all of these places that are so far away and so like there's no signal, so they're cut off basically from what happens within most of central Belize. So how do you communicate with these persons and you know, try to get them to, well, I won't even say reason, but try to get them to understand the information that you're giving them, and of course bringing them to the table to make them feel like they are a part of the conversation.
I presume in a situation like that though, their concerns are highly localized.
And different from what you are going in, right?
Precisely, yes. When we were, let me give you the example of when we were in San Benito, Poite. And of course, the meetings take long because you have to translate, you know. Many of the concerns were transportation, farming, farmland support. But I can say that Minister Oscar Requena has been doing a very, very good job of reaching out. He has really been doing a good job of reaching out. And the Ministry of Infrastructure has been upgrading some of the roads to the far-flung areas. The thing about
Matakilha has gotten its road.
Yes, but the thing about it is that the South, and especially with climate change, is experiencing up to 200 inches of rainfall per year. You know, on the PGTV, I must tell you this, on the PGTV, they have these little children who have a rain gauge in their respective villages, like Forest Home, Santa Teresa, Barranco. As a matter of fact, the little girl who has her rain gauge in Barranco is a little Maya girl. And well, I was, you know, I try to watch the PGTV news, even if it is about a week old. And basically, they say, well, my rain gauge is so and so. In Santa Teresa, there was 1 week, there was 4 inches of rain. In Barranco, there was 13 inches of rain.
Oh, wow.
in that 1 week. You know, so the difficulty of development in the South is something that we have to focus on. It's not going to be easy, but I believe that we have to tackle it. For example, Honorable Mike Espat is constructing like a multi-purpose center right now in Bladen, same Bladen that we were talking about, you know. So Mike is on the ground, Oscar Requena on the ground, electrification of the South. We have to give full credit to Minister Shebat and his team with electrifying Indian Creek area and Golden Stream and Medina Bank and those areas. So there is a lot that is happening on the ground. And we are implementing what we call the FPIC protocol, free prior informed consent, to let people know. You know, for example, we still have, we're still pending the consent of the 7 villages that will be affected by the U.S. Capitol seismic testing. But I can report, even though it has taken a long time, that the progress has been made, and that generally speaking, the villages are in support and would like to at least see the seismic testing. And of course, people are looking for jobs. People are looking for jobs. So in our focus on our world indigenous, where they say you have to think globally, but act locally, what we need to do is to gave our Garifuna people that level of attention. Why you think they call Dangrega the culture capital? Because it brings together so much of who we are as Belizean. The Golisi School with the preservation of the Garifuna language, and then of course making sure that we respect the Mopan Maya language, the Kekchi language, and then the Yucatec language. We were going to take Minister Sokayo to Cayo as well, because you know that Honorable Alex Balona is fluent in Yucatec Maya. You know that, yes. So you know, I am happy that we're focusing on it again in thinking globally about acting locally. I'm glad that we are focusing on the World Indigenous People Day. And I do want to mention, maybe as a little parting thing, because I know we're running out of time already, that we did have a wonderful Toledo Women's Empowerment for Indigenous Women's Forum in Punta Gorda a month ago. And it was a lovely forum. What we focused on was health, education, and gender-based violence. And the ladies who came, we were catering for about 100 people, and 150 women showed up, so we had to hurry and go buy more food.
That's awesome, though.
But I think why it was so successful is that the women brought something to the table, and then they took something with them, because we were able to get many recommendations as to how we can improve the health system in the South, especially for the indigenous women in the deep, remote rural areas. They were giving a lot of examples and recommendations which we have passed on to the Ministry of Health, and in regard to education as well, and then of course with gender-based violence. And it's a challenge because the police, they don't have enough police, and many women are challenged where that is concerned. But all our flyers, all our pamphlets, our educational materials, they went like hot Johnny cake, you know? So yes, so we were so very happy to have had that forum, and I hope that we can continue to give the focus and the attention to our indigenous peoples of Belize, not only on the 8th of August, but all year through. All year round, you know?
That's
yeah.
All right.
So,
World Indigenous Peoples Day is August 9th.
The 8th or the 9th?
It's August 9th, I believe.
9th,
it's the
okay,
Wednesday.
well, my bad.
And we have World Indigenous Peoples Day, but in Belize we also have Indigenous Peoples Resistance Day, which is October. So
yes.
I really, as we wrap up, what's the difference?
well, I think you know, we used to call it Columbus Day,
Pan American Day,
and Pan American Day, Dia de las Americas, and you know, the Jamaicans used to say that never Columbus, that never Columbus, that make
Combocos.
Combocos, right? No, but I think as we shift in the awareness, for example, we've just come out of Emancipation Day.
Yes.
And
yes.
it really was about time that we celebrate Emancipation Day. And I have to say that Deputy Prime Minister Cordell Hyde gave an excellent address on the marking of the official ceremony, marking Emancipation Day. So as we increase our awareness, as we improve the outreach and the way that we develop our country, let us shift our thinking to more progressive ideas, and that is why the Indigenous Peoples Resistance Day that's coming up in October, we shift that focus away from the colonial attitude to a much more liberal and progressive and developmental attitude, you know? So I really want to say that it's a pleasure that we can celebrate these days, but also bring it into the Belizean context so that we can not only enjoy the days, but also work towards the cultural preservation, the development, facing the challenges, but in a way that is positive.
Appreciate it, Minister Dolores Balaramos Garcia. Thank you so much for coming in this morning.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. We are happy to see you always, and of course we're highlighting World Indigenous Peoples Day, which is this Wednesday, August 9th.
9th. Thank you for that correction. I thought it was the 8th.
And
Right.
so we are going to now take the break, and when we come back, it's all about personal debt, a conversation that I think many of us need to have but don't want to have. We'll stick around. We'll be right back.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
Come on!
When hungry or craving, when laughter or tears, enjoy the best snacking or flavors are here. Asadas, bocadas, chiladas, doradas, delicious for snacking, done right and done here.
Done right, done here. How does investment services work? For example, Joe's Construction wants to expand its operations by purchasing new equipment and hiring additional staff. How can Joe's Construction get an investment loan? The answer: Investment Services appraises the loan application and focuses on two key areas: adequate collateral and repayability. Investment Services will also consider how Belizeans and the economy will benefit from this new investment through job creation and business growth. The terms and conditions for Joe's Construction loan will be based on the purpose and cash flow. After recommendation and approval, the loan is disbursed. SSB remains committed to proper management of the fund through prudent and responsible investments for the benefit of its beneficiaries, employers, and the Belizean economy. Social Security Board, an investment for you, your family, your future.
The new school year is almost here, so it's time to end the summer with a bang! Come see kids from all over the country while they take center stage to show off their talent on Open Your Eyes Summerfest 2023. That's right, mark your calendars. Friday, August 18th at 6:30 a.m. at Channel 5 on Kona Drive. Come and start your morning right with kids singing and dancing. Also, come take advantage of great food, entertainment, and loads of back-to-school giveaways, including gifts for the first 100 kids who enter the fest. And the best thing of all, entrance is free. So, what are you waiting for? Set your alarm and pencil in that date because Summerfest 2023 is one event you don't want to miss.
The Crooked Tree Road upgrading project basically entails the upgrading of approximately 4.4 kilometers of existing gravel road to a paved standard. These works commence at the intersection of the Crooked Tree Road junction with the Philip Wilson Highway and traverses in a westerly direction towards the village. The works basically entail the full upgrading and paving of the road to an international standard, including the installation of additional drainage structures, and also the inclusion of earthen side drains along the entire section of the road. We're very pleased that we were able to garner the funds from the government of Belize. They were able to finance this entire project to a tune of approximately 2.97 million Belize dollars. And so we're very grateful that we did not have to borrow from any funding agencies to get these works completed. And we're thankful very much for the support that the government of Belize has provided in getting this road upgraded.
It has created a vast improvement in cruise tourism. As you know, cruise tourism is not an overnight thing. They have to come from off the ship, inland, and get back to their ship in time. Now we have seen a vast improvement in cruise tourism in the village. Also, commercially, now there's a lot of trading being done here in Crooked Tree. As a matter of fact, I am a building contractor, and we used to pay landlords $120 for a delivery, and with the paving of this road, it's down to $90. We're saving $30 on every trip of material we get in here. So that's an improvement for me. Also, whenever we have somebody who is seriously ill in the village, it has been recorded several times that people died on their way to the hospital because the ambulance cannot reach. Now it's so Belize City is only a stone's throw away, thanks to this beautiful highway hub. My great villagers of Crooked Tree are more than happy and more than thankful for this project.
I can see our business growing by leaps and bounds with this paved road that we have right now, or we're getting. It's going to be like opening a door that was closed, because we have lost a lot of business because of the road.
This road is, it will help so much in the movement of livestock. It will help in the movement of students and the movement of our commuters. It is a great blessing. When we used to be damaging our vehicle on the road, that will no longer be the case again. We have a good road there, and we want to thank the government of Belize for that.
And welcome back. Joining us via Zoom for our second conversation is Dr. Idalia Medskin. She is an economist and entrepreneur and co-proprietor of the business Calico Jacks Resort and Zip Lining and Money Smart Belize. She is joining us this morning to talk to us about personal debt. Good morning, Dr. Medskin.
Good morning, Doc.
Good morning. Good morning. It's great to be here.
We're talking about personal debt, and just before we start the conversation, I really want, if you could, for our viewers, highlight what that actually means. What is the definition of personal debt, and what we're trying to do to combat that?
Okay, so debt is a relatively simple concept, conceptually anyway. And it's like this: you earn a particular amount of income, and you have a certain amount of expenditure, and if your expenditure exceeds your income, you're in a minus position. So example, let's say your monthly income is $2,000 and you spend $3,000. Okay, so you will have a gap, okay, of 3 minus 2, which is 1,000. Now the question is, how do you fill that gap? If you have some savings, you could take out of your savings and meet that difference. If you don't have savings, now we're in the world of borrowing.
Yeah.
And you can borrow maybe from your family, or maybe you borrow from money lenders or banks. Basically, our options in Belize are more limited than they are in countries that are more developed.
Do you think that persons are already in personal debt before they even begin to work and attain a monthly salary? And I ask that question because in our generations today, a lot of persons graduate high school and they invest in college, whether they can afford it or they get a loan. And once they have finished that degree, they have to start working, but majority of the time that loan is at 11% interest or so to pay it back. So they are now rallying to make that money to pay off that loan. So how are we supposed to prioritize our income if we are already starting off with some level of debt?
Yes, that is a really excellent characterization of where many students find themselves. But what I can say to you is the investment in yourself, in your own education, it's no different than investing, for instance, if you buy a home, you want to maintain the home. And it's the same for us as human beings. There's something called human capital. And there's no loftier, no better investment than investing in yourself. And so the good news is you may initially come out of school with that debt load, as the illustration showed, but experience in country after country, and I think it's the same for us here in Belize, is that the returns to education, that means what comes back to you from that investment over your lifetime. So you can't just look at this period. Over your lifetime brings you much more well-being and income than if you didn't invest in yourself. Now, our challenge in Belize is that in other countries, they have student loan programs that offer subsidized lending to students, so it's not as burdensome. You probably know in other countries like the United States, there's a big debate going on about debt forgiveness because it is a huge burden.
Yeah.
So that's something that we could look at. I know that government does provide selective subsidies and scholarships. In some countries, like in Scandinavia, people actually go to school for free. But we don't have, the resources to be able to do that. So the pragmatic part of it is to when you think about what you want to do, of course, it should be driven by your interests and your passion, where your heart is. And also you want to think pragmatically about, well, what will I do with it? Is it going to bring me a means of earning an income? Because that's the world in which we live. We also want to be financially responsible for ourselves because we don't have many safety nets in Belize other than Social Security.
Doc, when you look at the situation of home ownership, particularly if we're talking first-time homeowners and their ability to be able to establish themselves by owning property and what have you, in many instances, those individuals have to borrow monies to be able to build their homes and what have you. What would you say would perhaps be an appropriate level? I'm not sure if there's a measure to this or what have you, but what would you say would be an appropriate level for indebtedness? If you're working, you're running a family, but you still want to be able to purchase and own property.
Yes, debt is not in and of itself bad. As you're saying, debt actually becomes an instrument for us to meet our goals, fulfill our visions, our dreams. And there's a way to do it that actually benefits our lives. And to do that, we have to have a certain level of awareness around borrowing. We actually want to, and we also have to have some patience. Over time, we as human beings, we so want everything right now in the moment. For those of us who may be a little bit older in years with experiences in earlier years, we had to wait to acquire what we wanted. And so one aspect is when you're setting your goals, when you're looking at your visions, is to say, okay, how do I phase it? you know, if my home is the priority, then let me focus first on my home. And now we go and we look at what are the options available in Belize. Fortunately, now there are mortgages. Before, you guys are probably too young to remember, there were many homes that you saw blocks, houses partially built because there were no mortgages.
Yeah.
So you actually had to wait and earn
and then
buy your block and build it block by block. Now,
Yeah.
fortunately, we don't have to do that now. But it does make sense if you want to avoid the distress and you know, financial distress and debt burden is so stressful for people, and so you want to, you know, look at your income, look at your day-to-day expenditure. You want to save. I know that's something that you know, even if you save $1 a week, many people say, "Oh, I don't have enough income to save." But even if you saved $1 a week, the impact of that is just amazing over time. And you know, one trick is this. You know, most financial institutions don't lend to you if you don't have money. Of course, you want to go borrow when you don't have it. But you see, if you build a relationship with either your credit union, your bank, and for instance, take out a loan early, a small amount, and keep your word. Pay what you say you're going to pay. So now banks are willing to give loans. For instance, Belize Bank now has borrowing online without, you can just do it online without, you upload your documents. You don't have to come in for an interview. There are limits, time limits, and monetarily minutes, and it's for customers and non-customers. And so maybe you start and you take a small loan and you repay it back. Now you're building your relationship with the bank. You're building your credit. And when you build that track record, I can actually tell you the sky's almost the limit. And now you have greater access to credit. So what we want to do is encourage our youngsters to build good financial habits, meaning good relationships with the financial institutions that are in Belize. Don't be afraid to open an account. Now the good news is there's actually deposit insurance up to a certain limit. Before we didn't have deposit insurance. What's deposit insurance? It means if you put X amount of money in the bank and something happens to the bank, you're going to be repaid that amount. Before, we did not have that insurance. So banks are safe, they're sound. I know many people are hesitant about having a bank account or a credit union account. But that's the step to just as we have relationships with people, we have relationships with our doctors. You want to have a relationship with your financial institution, with your banker as well. So that when times are difficult, we all make mistakes. Say you make a mistake and you're overextended and you have this huge debt burden. They have a relationship with you. You have a track record. And they're more willing now to do what's called restructuring. That maybe lower the interest rate a bit, stagger the payments out longer. And because you have the relationship, they can see you, they can see what you do. So I don't think you can be too early. You know, we get our kids, my kids and grandkids had, you know, credit union accounts and then bank accounts very early on. And you just get them to put, you know, if you give them, you know, $1 allowance, you put a shilling in. You know, it's just that you want to build the habit because we have habits around everything. And we want to build good habits around money and not be afraid of money. Right?
But Doc, I hear you. I hear you. I know there's a lot more opportunities now. I know that banks are willing to negotiate with customers a little bit better now. But you know, we are living in a recession era where, you know, you gave the example of $2,000 and you're spending $3,000. That is the case for most people. So how do we relieve ourselves of that kind of debt where we can't really live? You know, it's becoming this state of, and of course that does come with priority, but it does come to the state of my electricity bill and my rent costs more than what I make. So how
Okay.
can I relieve myself of that kind of debt?
Okay, so we have two types of issues, and you raised them in your question.
Yeah.
One is what I would call a structural a problem where you're only earning X and your bills. And here I would make a distinction between necessities and luxuries. And some of us get these confused. Some of us say, well, I must have this and I must have that. And so one thing is to take a real close look at your spending habits and say, all right, what am I spending on? But I mean a serious look. Where can I cut or delay my consumption of some things? Okay, so for instance, maybe I'm eating chicken every day. So could I eat chicken? And I know that sounds, oh my God, I can't have chicken every day. Maybe you eat it 4 days a week. Okay, that's not particularly a necessarily great example, but I think you understand what I mean. That we want to sit down and really take a serious look at how we're spending. So, for instance, even for me, sometimes I look and I see, oh wow, what's going on? And I say, oh wow, I had these extra expenditures, which really I didn't factor in when I was thinking about where I would end up at the end of the month. And in my case, I go find another job. I go find some other activity to fill that gap. So one critical aspect is to actually do, and this word people cringe when you say budget, but all a budget is listing what do I spend my money on, and then looking at the other side and say, what money do I actually bring in? If it's a family, what money do we all bring in? Okay, and now we look at how do we spend it? Until we really seriously sit down and do that, and if we don't have the capacity to do that, then get help. There are people who will help and teach you. Just, you know, we don't really teach people about money.
Yeah. We don't want to talk about money. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about how
It's
much
a
we earn.
conversation that we shy away from.
Yes, but and I don't know if that's just our culture, but we don't want to talk about money. We don't want to talk about bills. We don't want to talk about expenses. And in my generation coming up, and this is a conversation I constantly have with my parents now, is that why didn't you tell me it would be this hard? Or why didn't you tell me that I would need to be able to read this contract thoroughly before I sign my soul away to this student loan? You know, so it's all of these different these different conversations that for some reason we don't want to have because we're afraid, or if we don't have the conversation, then it'll somehow go away, right? And that's not really helping us in this new world. We're not financially literate.
There you have it. Yeah. There you have it. We started a company, Money Smarts Belize, because we were concerned about this. I mean, we all have kids and grandkids. Well, you guys don't have grandkids, but some of us have grandkids. And the fear around money, and it is cultural. If we have perceptions around money that somehow money is bad, then we won't want to talk about it. We won't want to learn about it. And so we want to look at, you know, what are my feelings, what are my emotions and my thoughts around money. You know, money is an instrument. It's a tool. It can help us realize our dreams, take care of, you know, maintain ourselves, our families. And in other countries, there's just basic literacy built into the curriculum in education. Or on the news, you constantly hear discussions about money. It's a part of the, you know, morning news show. And so you're right, it's cultural. We want to think about money as a help. I have a saying, I say we want to use money and love people. And sometimes we get it the opposite.
Yeah.
And so you're right, we have to demystify money and take the fear out of it. Because there's nothing more stressful than to see somebody who's in that position. So we said sometimes it's structural. And in that case, the reality is that you can borrow if you have some prospect of generating future income. So it was your opening question, what about students? Well, students have a higher probability of getting out of that debt because they're going to have greater job opportunities. Okay, in country after country, this has been researched extensively, and people who get educated have such a bright horizon in terms of their income earning capacity. Now you have to get up and put the effort in. You can't sit home with your degree and say, I have a degree. Okay, it's the people who really don't have that. Now, what do we do with that? And you see in other countries, there are programs that assist those people by giving skills. It's usually by either skill-based or some form of education, again, to lift their job opportunities. And so in the meantime, that segment of the population is usually subsidized for a period of time. But the subsidy is linked to getting some type of skill. And so, but you can borrow, but when you borrow, you want to make sure that you have an idea of how you will repay that.
You have to be able to borrow responsibly.
Yeah, right. But
that's right, borrowing responsibly.
But I don't know how. I mean, you brought it up in terms of the persons that are not getting that degree, right? So most of these people do range in a particular poverty line, and they're not even in debt. So how are we supposed to combat poverty when the rest of us do have personal debt that can't seem to really budget or prioritize and pay these loans, and then you have these other persons that can't even make an income but still have bills to pay in some kind of way?
So the overall context is this: we are, although we're classified as a medium-low income country in Belize, the reality is we really are not yet fully developed, and it's why the decisions that our government, our policymakers take are so critical for us, because they set the environment. And so you referenced being in a downturn or recession. If we can keep the economy growing, but not just growing, and that the distribution of that growth, that everybody's participating in, now we have an environment where people can thrive. But if the economy isn't doing well, remember what the economy is just what we are producing. Okay, we either produce it here with our own resources, or and get paid here, or we, for instance, tourism, basically we're bringing people here to spend money. That money gets distributed to the workers, to the agricultural sector, and this is where we get the financing that we need to live. So it's linked to actually how productive are we as a country? How, when the government takes our tax revenue, I mean, it's always very interesting. Governments seem to think they own the taxes. Those taxes come from people who are producing. Governments produce nothing. Okay? That is coming from you, me, everyone who's working, who's making a contribution. And the government takes a share, and the government's job is two. It's to use what they take. It's to help those who don't have as much. That's the redistribution function. And it's to provide goods and services that individuals wouldn't provide, like the police, defense, certain social services, clean air. If there's a mosquito infestation, spraying. So really, all we have is what we ourselves produce and generate. And it's up to a society to decide, okay, what do we want? And we have our Vision 2030. All of this is the broader policy framework that we've agreed as citizens of Belize that is our vision for ourselves, for our children, their children.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be our roadmap of where we're going and how we're going. And so what we want to do as citizens is to say, okay, this is our contract. That's our social contract. This is what we've agreed as a society we want to do. Well, how are we doing?
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, how are we doing? And if we don't hold our leaders accountable, if we can be bought by a piece of land or $50 for a vote, independent of party, independent of party. I'm not speaking politics. I'm talking about us as citizens and our responsibilities. It ultimately comes back to us. Are we holding our policymakers accountable for how they spend the money they take from us? Okay, are they giving it to some to those who don't have a lot? Are they improving this roads, improving this, improving that?
Yeah.
Now, for a country like Belize, we also get help from outsiders, because we at the country level, we have a structural issue, because we are not, let's say we have resources that we're not really using.
Yeah.
And so we're not generating enough, let's say, for everybody. So then we have the so-called IFIs, the international financial institutions, who, we borrow from, or they give us grants, or we have, Taiwan. We get into these arrangements with partners who, countries borrow too, who give us money. But it's the same point, that then when our government borrows, they have to use those funds
to pay back
in activities in productive activities that will allow them to pay back. Or we have the debt. It's not the government.
It's the country, the citizens.
It's the country.
Yeah.
We're the ones who are indebted. And so when you have that general environment, the way out of it is we have to produce, we have to look at again our behavior. What are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What are we doing? What is our government doing? How are they spending what we do have?
Yeah. Wow, Dr. Metzgen, I think you tapped into a whole next level of this conversation that I think you have to come back and we have to discuss that, because we are completely out of time. But we do want to thank you so much for zooming by and talking to us about this conversation.
Thank you so much. It's been a joy to be here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Metzgen. Personal debt, we have to continue having this conversation. But we do got to take the break, and we are going to be right back with Belizean author Madeline Dyer, and she's here to talk to us about her new published book. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
With eCash, bill payment is extremely convenient, and all utility companies accept eCash payments. What's even better? You get to split bills with your roommates, siblings, or whoever you desire. Simply open your eCash app, go to Bill Pay, tap the respective utility company, enter the information, and pay the bill. Then tap the transaction made. Tap Split the bill. Select Evenly. Send the request to who you are splitting the bill with, and get notified when they pay. Talk about making life easy and avoiding confusion. You can split the bill for restaurants, grocery stores, and for any eCash payment you make. To find your next yummy meal, hair treatment, or chill spot, simply open the app and utilize the geolocation service to see nearby businesses that accept eCash. Geolocation and bill payment make life a whole lot easier.
KTV The Remix Season 5, every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Come on out and win fabulous prizes and the chance to compete in our halftime challenge. Tickets are available at Channel 5 on Coney Drive and 88 Shopping Center on Central American Boulevard. $3 for children and $5 for adults. Or catch it live on Channel 5, Facebook, and YouTube every Tuesday at 8 p.m. from the Bliss Center for the Performing Arts. Don't miss KTV The Remix Season 5. It's hot, it's live, and it's only on 5.
Your summer better. Over $30,000 in cash and prizes with Smart Summer Sweepstakes. Here's how you can enter for a chance to win. Sign up for a smart postpaid, broadband, or VoIP plan. Use $100 or more regular prepaid credit. Do a SIM swap or text in to the short code 786. In the body of the message, enter the number of entries you would like to purchase.
No waste no time. You can be the winner of weekly prizes. All methods give you more chances to win. Local airline tickets, overnight stays at numerous resorts, cash prizes, gift certificates, and much, much more. One lucky person will win the grand prize valued at $10,000, courtesy of Smart and the Belize Tourism Board.
Promotion ends September 15th. So make your summer better by getting in the race to win with Smart's Summer Sweepstakes. Smart, bringing people together.
The new school year is almost here, so it's time to end the summer with a bang. Come see kids from all over the country while they take center stage to show off their talent on Open Your Eyes Summerfest 2023. That's right, mark your calendars. Friday, August 18th at 6:30 a.m. at Channel 5 on Coney Drive. Come and start your morning right with kids singing and dancing. Also, come take advantage of great food, entertainment, and loads of back-to-school giveaways, including gifts for the first 100 kids who enter the fest. And the best thing of all, entrance is free. So, what are you waiting for? Set your alarm and pencil in that date because Summerfest 2023 is one event you don't want to miss.
Welcome back to our final conversation for this morning, Isani, and it's all about our Belizean author Madeline Dyer and her new published book, Her Inspirations. So good morning, Madeline.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Madeline.
So we're here to talk to you about your published, newly published, your first publication, children's book, and it's titled My Inspiration, right? So talk to us a little bit about your inspiration for this inspiration.
So the inspiration behind the book is my daughter, of course, because I have a dedication page to her. And the reason why I was inspired to write it was because my daughter is autistic. She's 11 years old, and when she was a lot younger, she struggled with certain things. Socializing, communication was very late. She started speaking at about 7.
Oh, wow.
So now that she's 11, her progress is so immense that she still is autistic, but you can't really tell. And
She's
that's
high
because,
functioning.
well, that's what they consider high functioning, but a lot of work was put in from her father and I. For example, when it came to reading, we didn't teach her letters. We focused on what the sounds are instead of the letters. And that accelerated her reading. To this day, my daughter is not the best speller, but if you give her just about any book, she can pick up and read. And for me, when I was going to school, my daughter was the biggest inspiration for me to finish. Prior to, I didn't really have like the motivation. You know, you start school and then you drop out and then you try to get back in, and it's not that easy. So this was actually written when I was doing my medical technician license. And I had baby hair and book hair. And I remember one time I was just studying because I had an exam the following day to get my license. And while I'm rocking this baby, she's fast asleep and I'm studying, trying to focus for the next day. And I looked over at her and she was just so peaceful and calm. And it really gave me the courage to push further and to get my education. I did end up passing. I got a 93, and that's when my intro into the medical field started.
Wow,
So
interesting story.
Right, I really like that you went there, because the cover of the book is all about graduating and finishing, well, not finishing, but graduating, completing a chapter in your life. So what is this is a children's book.
Yes.
So what is the synopsis of this particular story?
So some of the pictures are actual pictures of me and my daughter. And what I did was I had the young lady that was doing the paintings or drawings and to transfer them to digital printings, watercolors. And what we did was I said to her, don't make it look exactly like me. So she animated a lot of the imagery, but a lot of them can be found in my album. And the front picture is actually me and her when I graduated with my medical technician license. And then in the end, at the back, I can show you guys really quickly, is the image of her with her family. And she's finishing school. And the back tells you, that I want her to inspire her kids.
I like this a lot, because I like the story of why you wrote this book.
Let's talk a bit about this book in the context of perhaps other children who are either dealing with issues of autism or learning. Talk to us a bit about that.
Okay, so learning differs for every student. There's no two students that are alike exactly when it comes to education. And as a student that struggled myself in the educational system here in Belize, I can tell you that I didn't really get assistance with my learning until I went to the US, and they did these analysis and they tried to put you in categories as to where you fit, and then they provided you with tools. For example, I don't write notes. Even in college, I actually draw my notes. And when my professor first saw that I learned with drawing, they took my book because it was very interesting to have that one student that learned differently. Now, I can memorize a lot of things visually through writing my notes, drawing my notes. And it has worked efficiently for me over these past few years. I still have a couple more years of college to go. And I have like a 4.0 GPA.
So with persons that, parents that have children with autism, what would be the advice then that you would provide for them the way you taught your daughter how to read?
Focus on their weaknesses. And I do it that way because children with autism, they need structure, guidance, and a lot of support. You telling them no and not replacing the no with something that they understand is not going to help them. For example, my daughter we don't do TV with her. TV, phones, tablets are a no. And now that she's getting older, we introduced it to her, but in small dosage. We focus on socializing at home. We focus on family time because autistic children especially need a lot of interaction to develop tools to help them to be successful, not only in social environments, but inside the classroom.
Yeah, and then that brings me back to this particular book, because it kind of showcases that they still can continue and be successful in their lives. So how do you talk to your daughter about this particular story?
So there's a page in there where mom and daughter aren't getting along, and you will find that as parents you don't always get along with your kids. I have a thing with my daughter where whenever we're having any type of conflict, I asked her, and she's like fussing and crying. I don't yell at her. I don't spend time beating her down with words or anything like that. I actually focus and say, well, in this moment right now, what is it that you need? And I leave her to verbalize and tell me how I can be better at or support her in that time of need. One other thing that my husband and I do is that we have Saturdays are family nights.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what we did, especially because she was autistic and we really wanted to like get her into the mood for school, was we bought flashcards and we threw them on the floor, and him and I pretended as if we didn't know how to read them.
Yeah.
And we would focus on the sound, and it helped encourage her to read. So again, autistic children need a lot of, how do you call that? A lot of time socializing with parents and less TV time.
One-on-one attention.
Yes.
That's really beautiful, because I think that we're just starting to get into this present era of understanding that there are special needs children out there, there are autistic children out there that need that TLC. How does your daughter feel about school?
Okay, so she loves school.
Okay.
She's currently going to a really good school that provides her support. For example, in the US, she has insurance, and the insurance provides her with a nurse, a speech therapist, and all those additional supports that mom and dad can't give her around the clock because we're working.
Yeah.
But what it also does is it gives her that ladder, I guess you would say, to see if she needs the support continuously. They do an analysis every year or every couple of months to see where's her strong or weak points. And during the summer, her dad and I would take those times to take her to museum and support those weak points and help strengthen her for the following school year. She's actually an honor roll student.
Wow.
And she just got into the honor society, which is a big deal because going into school, if in the US especially, if you don't get into certain programs you don't get into private institution, and my daughter is already thinking about college.
Yeah. Wow.
She's looking forward to leaving home.
Oh wow.
And she's only 11, so she's literally at 11. She's very mature. She knows she wants to leave home. I don't know where she's gonna go, because I'm thinking about keeping her close, but she is ready to fly.
Perhaps she already has that planned out.
She said she's gonna be a lawyer. She
okay.
She has this plan.
Yeah, nice.
But this book is one of your other publications. So
yes.
You are a medical student. You're a medical technician. So what is the purpose of writing children's books?
Initially, I wasn't going to publish it, right? And my professor came upon it one day, and she said, "This is really good. You should publish." And that's how I started getting into the publishing field. And I did this one, My Mom the Cook and Caribbean Tales. And some of them are about bits and pieces of my life here growing up in Belize, because you will never have a childhood like the one you have in your own country.
Yep.
Very true. Yeah.
And so I highlighted the country, because some of the images people here will be able to relate back to in some of my other books. And I'm working on my science-based ones called Flora and Friends, talking about skin flora, and the purpose of it is to encourage hand hygiene. So I have a few out there already. One is in progress of being published as well. So it's getting into the science field.
And so where can we find your books?
In the US, you can purchase this at Walmart, Target, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. I'm working on something here with Angela's Press, so eventually it will be available here.
Yeah.
So it will be around.
Okay, and do you believe that this kind of book? What is the age range that kids can read this book?
It's an intro reader.
Okay.
But what I'm finding is that kids that are in their teens, that especially, I had a review from a 13-year-old.
Okay.
And she was expressing that, you know, her and her mom are at that stage where they're not agreeing because she's entering to the teenage phase, and mom was born in the 80s, so she doesn't, you know, they don't understand
each other.
Yes. And so for her, the page that made her cry was the one that says, I pay attention with love and care. I love her most, even when she thinks I'm not fair.
Aww.
And a lot of times, that's always a disconnection between individuals. So I'm learning that people that are in their preteens, teen years also enjoy this little short read. Moms can relate immensely because parenting is not easy.
It's always a challenge.
Yes, there's no guidelines.
Yeah.
Madeline, I really am looking forward to your other publications. This is a lovely read for your kids. Did you learn anything new about your daughter while you were writing this book?
Yeah, that I know nothing about parenting.
Oh, I don't know if that's true.
When I had my daughter, I feel like she taught me who I was. I didn't know who I was until I always say to her that she's the best thing that I never knew I needed. And I say that because until I had her, I was just enjoying life, going out, you know, partying here and there, doing whatever I wanted. And once I saw that plus sign, it literally changed my perspectives. I prioritized a lot more. I redefined friendships and family connections. It was just all about her and making sure that her space was safe enough to penetrate, and it had guidelines to support who she's supposed to be in the future.
Wow, wonderful. My Inspiration can be purchased on Amazon and other places in the United States, and hopefully we can get some copies here in Belize. Madeline, thank you so much for dropping by this morning. Do you have any final words for our viewers today?
Be the best version of yourself, you know, and even if you need to work on it, take your own time, get a journal, and figure out where you want to be and how you're going to get there on your own. And do not measure yourself or your successes by anybody else, because we all get there at different strides.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. We got to take the break, Isane, and we'll be back to wrap things up. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The new school year is almost here, so it's time to end the summer with a bang. Come see kids from all over the country while they take center stage to show off their talent on Open Your Eyes Summerfest 2023. That's right, mark your calendars. Friday, August 18th at 6:30 a.m. at Channel 5 on Kona Drive. Come and start your morning right with kids singing and dancing. Also, come take advantage of great food, entertainment, and loads of back-to-school giveaways, including gifts for the first 100 kids who enter the fest. And the best thing of all, entrance is free. So, what are you waiting for? Set your alarm and pencil in that date, because Summerfest 2023 is one event you don't want to miss.
Make your summer better. Over $30,000 in cash and prizes with Smart Summer Sweepstakes. Here's how you can enter for a chance to win. Sign up for a smart postpaid, broadband, or VoIP plan. Use $100 or more regular prepaid credit. Do a SIM swap or text in to the short code 786. In the body of the message, enter the number of entries you would like to purchase.
No waste no time. You can be the winner of weekly prizes. All methods give you more chances to win local airline tickets, overnight stays at numerous resorts, cash prizes, gift certificates, and much, much more. One lucky person will win the grand prize valued at $10,000, courtesy of Smart and the Belize Tourism Board.
Promotion ends September 15th. So make your summer better by getting in the race to win with Smart's Summer Sweepstakes. Smart, bringing people together.
It's good to keep the environment clean. BSWAMA, step up the pace. They're going places to manage your waste. So make we stand and make well sure. No garbage left on the seashore. The whole of Belize we stay clean, cause we know say worth much more. We have pretty environment. So when you see the garbage on the ground, go off me and just bag it on.
Cleanliness has always been second nature to us, so let's work together to keep our surroundings beautiful and healthy.
No garbage in it. KTV The Remix Season 5 every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Come on out and win fabulous prizes and the chance to compete in our halftime challenge. Tickets are available at Channel 5 on Pony Drive and 88 Shopping Center on Central American Boulevard. $3 for children and $5 for adults. Or catch it live on Channel 5, Facebook, and YouTube every Tuesday at 8 p.m. from the Bliss Center for the Performing Arts. Don't miss KTV The Remix Season 5. It's hot, it's live, and it's only on 5.
Get ready, babe. We're going on a vacation.
Finally, where are we going?
Don't worry, babe. I have we covered.
Are you sure you know where we're going?
Yes, babe. Oh, right there, see? Babe, the price was too good to be true. Me look much more better in that picture.
When life throws you a curveball, Belize Bank has your back. With our online financing, you can turn any vacation mishap into a dream getaway.
Cheers to Belize Bank for making our dream vacation a reality.
Thanks to you, babe, to turn things around.
No thanks to you, cheapo.
Ouch.
Experience the future of financing with Belize Bank online, where you can secure funds for anything, from anywhere, at any time, all without stepping foot in a bank. Apply for a loan today and unlock a world of possibilities.
Welcome back. We are wrapping up our Monday morning show today, and we want to say a special thank you to all of our guests that came in. Thank you so much to Honorable Dolores Balderramos Garcia. She came in to talk to us and highlighting World Indigenous Peoples Day, which is on Wednesday, August 9th. Of course, we also had joining us via Zoom, Dr. Idalia Medskin, and she talked to us about personal debt and what we can try to do to alleviate some of those monetary stresses. And thank you so much to Belizean author Madeline Dyer for coming in to highlight her children's book, My Inspiration, that can be found on Amazon. And a big thank you to you, our viewers, because without you, this would not be possible. If you have a birthday today, happy birthday to you. And if you have a birthday shout out or just a question or comment, you can always drop us a line right here at oye@channel5belize.com. You can also catch our live stream on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and all of our highlights on Instagram at OYE Belize. And of course, you can do us a favor and tune in again tomorrow when you open your eyes
to start your morning right.
Be sure to keep your eyes, your minds,
and your hearts open.
We'll see you soon, Belize. Have a safe day. Take care.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.